Parang hindi naman nata ito si Hippocrates. Hindi nga ako sa Hippocrates. Kilala mo ba sa Hippocrates? Alam mo ba ang poor humor theory ni Hippocrates? Kilala mo ba ang sarili mo? Baka kapag nalaman mo ang 4 na humor o temperament, mas makilala mo pa, hindi lang sa sarili mo, kundi sa ibang tao. The father of medicine was the Greek physician named Hippocrates. He paved the way for the physician nung time niya. Alam niyo ba na siya ang unang nakaisip kung paano examine ang mga pasyente noon? Actually, that time of Hippocrates ay walang step by step para malaman ang diagnosis ng pasyente niya. Kaya nabuo ang theory niya na the poor humor. He believed that human body consists of vital fluid that are essential for the functioning of the body, such as black bile, yellow bile, phlegm, and blood. He refers to these substances as humors. And according to the ancient Greek, everything na nasa universe ay konektado sa atin. Katulad na lang ng 4 elements.
Earth, fire, air, water.
So, anong ibig sabihin nun? Ang black bile daw ay related sa earth with cold and dry properties. Ang yellow bile related naman sa fire with dry and warm properties. Ang blood related sa air with moist and warm qualities. Ang phlegm related sa water with moist and cold. Ang sabi nila, to have a healthy body, they had to be perfectly in balance. But if this is unbalanced, it leads to sickness. At naniniwala sila na para pagilingin ang pasyente, kailangan nilang maibalance ang 4 fluids. Example, you has a fever that is too much phlegm, which is related sa water, and you're cold. Ang sabi nila, you need something hot to feel better. Ganyan ginamit ang poor humor sa medicine noong panahon ni Hippocrates. Later on, yung mga member ng Peripathic School nagdagdag ng ibang ideya sa theory ni Hippocrates. At si Galen, inelaborate niya ang theory. The Greek physician and philosopher Galen postulated the lack of balance between the poor humor affected people's way of behavior, feelings, and thinking. Naglagay siya ng 4 temperament to know the personality of a person. Ang 4 temperament helps you to understand yourself as well as the every person you have met. Ito ang melancholic, choleric, sanguine, at phlegmatic. I have 4 friends, and I will introduce them to you. Si Milan, Choco, Sunny, at Pamila. Ito si Milan. She is melancholic. Black bile predominates to her. Alam nyo ba, they are very artistic and sensitive. Mahalaga sa kanila ang family and friends. Know how to respect, honest, and loyal. But sa melancholic person ay hirap mag-open sa ibang tao. Kaya kapag may crush siya, di na lang nagsasalita. Ginagawa nila, nag-i-imagine na lang sila na magkasama sila ng crush niya. At kapag nasaktan sila, nagtatayo sila ng wall, protection para sa sarili nila. Alam niyo ba, they are also overthinkers and introspective at sentimental. Ang susunod natin ay si Choco. Isa siyang choleric, yellow bile, which is the source of their passionate temperament. They have enormous vitality. Dahil sa strong personality nila, gusto nilang napag-uusapan yung isang bagay. Nagmumula yung strength na yon sa mental nila. If may nakilala kang choleric, sila yung brave, blunt, at competitive na tao. They always has something to prove. Kapag may gusto silang bagay, aabutin talaga nila yon. But they get easily angry. Meron silang intimidating intensity, lalo na kapag di natutupad yung gusto nila. Next is Sunny. Isa siyang sanguine. Blood is the predominant humor in these people. They are confident, joyful, optimistic, expressive, at sociable. Mapapansin nyo yung personality nila, extrovert silang tao. Confident silang lumabas at makipag-interact. They have high energy level at napaka-curious nila kaya gusto nila ng adventure at sumubok ng bago. At ang panghuli ay si Pamila. Isa siyang phlegmatic. The phlegmatic have high amount of phlegm in their system. They are deep thinkers, fair, calm, at willing to compromise. Bukod doon, mga hard workers din sila. We would describe them empathetic and understanding. Madali mo silang magugustuhan dahil sa personality nila. Kasi di tulad ng ibang temperament, di sila madaling magalit. They also love peace and quiet. Pwede mo rin silang pagsabihan ng mga problema kasi good listener sila.
Good day, my name is Talucad and my topic will be all about Ernst Kretschmer and his type approach to 3 main body types. Ernst Kretschmer, born on October 8, 1888, died on February 8, 1964, was a German psychiatrist who attempted to correlate body build and physical constitution with personality characteristics and mental illness. Ernst Kretschmer was a 19th century German psychiatrist who helped shape the field of psychiatry, moving away from the mental illnesses of his predecessors to improve psychiatric understanding of morally impaired patients. He also contributed significantly to the theories and personality types which are still very widely employed hanggang ngayon. He attended Cannstatt Hochschule, one of the oldest Latin schools in Stuttgart, from 1906 to 1912. He studied theology, medicine, and philosophy at the universities of Tübingen and Munich and Hamburg. In 1926, he became the director of the psychiatric clinic at the Marburg University. Kretschmer was also a founding member of the AAGP, the General Medical Society of Psychotherapy, which was founded on January 12, 1927. He was also the president of AAGP from 1929, and in 1993 he resigned from the AAGP for political reasons to protest in the racial hygiene laws. From 1946 until 1959, Kretschmer was the director of the psychiatric clinic of the University of Tübingen. Ernst Kretschmer was a very controversial figure back in his days. He was a German psychiatrist who struggled to break the mold of his predecessors' ways of understanding psychiatric beliefs. His predecessors' belief of mental illnesses were very different from his. His contemporaries regarded people who suffered mental illness as moral degenerates. In other words, that the theory about this was that mentally ill patients were intentionally self-destructive. Yun yung belief ng mga tao noon na intentionally self-destructive ang mga mentally ill patients, that they did not have a physical illness but rather a weakness of will and discipline. Ernst Kretschmer theory about this was in stark contrast sa gantong understanding. He believed that mental illness stemmed from an impairment in the calculating ability or rational thinking of a person, a point of view na very controversial sa panahon nila. He wasn't the only one who disagreed with his contemporaries. Because his theory was unpopular with many other medical professionals, it directly contradicted the mainstream thinking about the psychological conditions and the people who suffered from them. In other words, sa mga ibang tao na may mainstream belief about the psychological illness, hindi nagme-make sense yung theory niya. What Kretschmer believed was the root for the cause of psychological illness was stemmed from a loss of self-control and the lack of discipline, not from a lack of willpower or personal control, or from an ambition to do something selfish or malicious. Next is his scientific contribution. Kretschmer was the first to describe the persistent vegetative state, which has also been called the Kretschmer syndrome. Another medical term coined after him is the Kretschmer sensitive paranoia, and between 1915 and 1921, he developed a differential diagnosis between schizophrenia and manic depression. He was also known for developing developing a classification system that can be seen as one of the earliest exponents of a constitutional approach. These are the three main body types, which are called the asthenic type, athletic type, and the cyclic type. The body type of a person is determined by the size and shape of their skeleton, according to him. First is the asthenic type. Asthenic type is characterized by a frail, long-limbed, narrow-chested physique, and according to Kretschmer typology, individuals so characterized tend to be shy, sensitive, and introversive in temperament. They are also called the leptosome type. So, ang asthenic type, they tend to be more on the introverted side. Asthenic type have a very low bone mass. Their limbs are longer than average, with joints that are close together. They have a low muscle and low subcutaneous fat, the fat below the skin. They appear slim or even skinny, but tend to suffer from a cold hands and feet, and poor blood circulations, and excessive anxiety or depressions. They have also very weak muscles and tend to experience fatigue after a physical exercise. The asthenic female naman are not only thin but also very small in height, and in their general appearance, same lang sila ng asthenic men. Athletic type is characterized by a man with a middle-sized to tall man with a superb chest, wide projecting shoulders, particularly the hypertrophied shoulders, as Kretschmer said. They have firm stomach, magnificent legs. The athletic type among female corresponds to the male form, that the certain characteristics deviation is the development of fat and is rich but not electively abnormal as with cyclics. Athletic type naman, they have a medium bone mass, high muscle mass. The limbs are similar in length to average, with joints that are not too far apart. Edges of the ears are sharp and well shaped, and there is high muscle tension. There is a high muscle tension in their and their abdominal fat is very low. Next is the cyclic type. Cyclic type Cyclic type is characterized by the peripheral development of the body cavities like breast, head, and stomach, and a tendency to a distribution of fat about in the torso. They also have a graceful construction of the motor apparatus, their limbs, and shoulder. Cyclic type, they tend to have a high bone mass and low muscle mass. The limbs are short compared to average, with joints that are too far apart. The face is narrow and long of the neck, and loss of subcutaneous fat since childhood make the body look skinny or even emaciated. The familiar subcutaneous fat is very common. The cyclic type tends to empathically to a covering of fat. The obesity of the cyclic is restricted with moderate limits for the most part. The female cyclic's covering of fat is more strongly concentrated over the hips and chest. Okay. Next is his temperaments. Ernst Kretschmer divided this into two divisions, the schizotymic and the cyclotymes. Schizotymic psychomotility is often inadequate to stimulus like inhibited, restrained, lame, stiff, etc. While in cyclotomes, Cyclotomes is adequate to stimulus and natural. Schizotymic contain a psychesthetic proportion between sensitive and cold poles. Psychic tempo of schizotymic people is between unstable and tenacious, and they have alteration mode of feeling and thought. Cyclotones, the modern term for light version of circular insanity is cyclothymia. They contain a dyadic proportion between raised, happy, and sad. Cyclotones' psychic tempo is between mobile and comfortable. Cyclotomes are often cycnics. Schizotymes naman is athletic, asthenic, diplastic, and their mixture. So, ang cyclotomes often cycnic sila, while the schizotymes are athletic and asthenic. These are some of his works. Yes. Okay. That's it.
Good morning everyone, my name is Yourelyn Tisoy from BS Psychology 3A, and today I am asked to discuss about Sheldon's personality theory, somatotyping. So before we proceed, let us know who is William Sheldon. William Sheldon was an American psychologist who devoted his professional life to observing the range of human body types, and he associated this to human personality or temperament types. Sheldon graduated from Warwick High School in 1915 and entered Brown University. And with the American entrance into World War I, he was commissioned as second lieutenant in a machine gun company. In 1919, he received a degree from Brown University in absentia, and afterwards, not really settled on a career, he wandered westward. He also entered the University of Colorado, where he earned a Master in Arts in English in 1923. During his time, he met some psychologists and psychiatrists, including German psychiatrist Ernst Kretschmer, who had started the scientific study of the relationship between physique and personality. After then, he finally decided to pursue psychology at the University of Chicago, where he received his PhD in 1925, and later on taught psychology in University of Chicago and Wisconsin. During the late 30s and early 40s, he dedicated himself to researching the thesis linking one physique features and psychological tendencies. Unfortunately, in 1945, he was struck down by a severe lymphatic cancer and given a medical discharge with about 100% disability. Next, Sheldon and his colleagues published several books. Three of them are the following. First, The Varieties of Human Physique, an introduction to constitutional psychology in 1940. It is composed of facts about theory of personality in relation to constitution and crime. Second is The Varieties of Temperament, a psychology of constitutional differences in 1942. A study in facts on how Sheldon associated human body or physique into personality or temperaments. Third is Atlas of Men, a guide for somatotyping the adult male at all ages in 1954. It is a collection of data regarding a study that examined thousands of photographs of almost completely nude male bodies. From those books, these things were drawn. Individually and collectively, these books deliver three sorts of messages. First, methodological or how to do it information on somatotyping. Second, substantive or application of somatotyping to social problem. Third, visionary or salvationist assurances that constitutional psychology can guide a eugenic program and save the modern world from itself. Now let's move on to Sheldon's contribution to psychology. Constitutional theory, the first comprehensive system of constitutional psychology, was proposed by American psychologist William Herbert Sheldon in 1940 to 1942. He believed that your body type can be linked into your personality. Constitutional psychology, the theory put forth by Sheldon, refers to the study of the psychological aspect of human behavior as they are related to morphology and physiology of the body. Sheldon in 1942, in original study at Harvard, he and his colleagues examined thousands of photographs of almost completely nude male bodies and concluded we have three components to our physiques. So for better understanding of three components, let's talk about somatotyping. To start, there needs to be an understanding of what exactly somatotyping is by defining the term. Somatotype, or the human body shape and physique types, The term somatotype is used in the system of classification of human physical types developed by U.S. psychologist William Herbert Sheldon. In Sheldon's system, human beings can be classified as the body build in terms of three extreme body types: endomorphic, mesomorphic, and ectomorphic. So guys, for additional information, in order to determine who falls under what body type, a somatotype number of 3 digits must be determined. With Sheldon's system, the first digit refers to endomorphy, the second refers to the mesomorphy, and the third refers to the ectomorphy. And each digit is on a 1 to 7 scale, with 1 is being very low and 7 is being very high. Broadly speaking, endomorphs have thicker bones, slow metabolism, and it's easy for them to increase fats. Mesomorphs are not naturally muscular and athletic, and ectomorphs are slim with thin bones and fast metabolism. Now let's discuss ectomorph. The picture above showed endomorphic body type. The ectomorph, according to Sheldon, was a thin, introverted person with poor social skills. Think of television Steve or Killer Greg from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, or even Sheldon's from the Big Bang Theory. These characters possess the ectomorph body type. So here are the characteristics of ectomorph body type. According to Sheldon, people under ectomorph type often narrow hips, shoulder, and even face and chest. There are also skinny arms and legs, often but not always tall, and high forehead. And in relation to personality, ectomorphs were thought to have the following personality characteristic. First, socially awkward, or having trouble in communicating with others, especially in social settings. They are also self-conscious, introverted, and private, means they value privacy, but deep down they are just waiting for somebody to ask them questions pertaining life. They are also artistic and thoughtful. Next is mesomorph. Mesomorphs are naturally endowed with muscle definition, and their muscle respond quickly to resistance training. Of the 3 body types, mesomorph put on muscle the easiest. Though you see this body type more often in men, women can also be mesomorphic. Other characteristics of mesomorph are natural muscle definition or toned muscle. They are often have natural athletic ability and rectangular body shape, and they are naturally strong. And according to Sheldon, mesomorphs are often adventurous. They are willing to try new and difficult things. They are also assertive. Being assertive means being able to stand up for your own or other people's right in a calm and positive way. They are also competitive and fearless. Mesomorphic persons are curious and enjoy trying new things, but can also be obnoxious and aggressive. And the next is endomorph. Endomorph describe as a rounder body and more relaxed personality, with the following physical characteristic. First, pear shape or round with wide shoulder and hips. They also have high body fat in all areas, including arms and thigh. Slim ankles and wrists, adding to the funny characteristic. Sheldon thought endomorphic people had personality that were outgoing. They are often friendly and socially confident, funny, or have a sense of humor. In addition, individuals under endomorph body types are often lovable and relaxed. They also possess attention-seeking. Now let's proceed on the last part of this discussion, the Sheldon's temperament. Sheldon also gave the subjects personality tests and categorized them into the following. First, Biserotonia, followed by Somatotonia and Cerebrotonia. Biserotonia or endomorphic, a pattern of temperament that is marked by predominance of social over intellectual or physical factors, and this exhibits conviviality, tolerance, complacency, and love of food. Biserotonia was also a quality of easygoing, relaxed, and sociability. On the other hand, somatotonia or mesomorphic, it is marked by predominance of physical over social or intellectual factors. It is include aggressiveness, vigor, and alertness. They also have courage and love of physical activity. Furthermore, cerebrotonia or ectomorphic, unlike the two categorizations, it is more often intellectual over social or physical factors, and by exhibition of sensitivity, introversion, and shyness. This quality was under ectomorphic body type, who often have or a tendency towards privacy and avoidance. So that's all for now, guys. I hope you learned something about other type of personality approach. And thank you for all your attentions. References will follow.
Hello everyone. Today I will be talking about Carl Jung, specifically his aspects regarding type approach. I am Hubert Victorino and I am a student of PRMSU BS campus from the course BS Psychology, 3rd year, Section A. First, let us talk about a brief history regarding Carl Jung. Jung's difficult and unhappy childhood were marked by deaths and funerals, neurotic parents in a failing marriage, religious doubts and conflicts, bizarre dreams and visions, and a wooden doll for his only companion. So his life was a bit on the 50-50 side. Born in Switzerland into a family that included 9 clergymen, 8 uncles, and his father, Jung was introduced at an early age to religion and the classics. He was close to his father but considered him weak and powerless, although kind and tolerant. Jung's father experienced periods of moodiness and irritability and failed to be the strong authority figure his son needed. Jung's mother was by far the more powerful parent among the two of them, but her emotional instability led her to behave erratically. One biographer suggested that the whole maternal side of the family appeared to be tainted with insanity. As a result of his mother's odd behavior, Jung became wary of all women. A suspicion that took many years to dispel. He later described his mother as being fat and unattractive, which may explain why he totally rejected Freud's notion that every boy has a sexual longing for his mother. Clearly, that did not reflect his childhood experience. This part of Jung may be an example of how different theories of personality may be different due to their own childhood experience. Like in Freud's side, he was very close to his mother. Therefore, that was the foundation of his theory. While Jung's was this one. Okay. As an escape, he turned inward to his unconscious, to the world of dreams, visions, and fantasies, in which he felt more secure. The choice would guide Jung for the rest of his life. Whenever he was faced with a problem, he would look for a solution throughout his dreams and visions. Jung disliked school and resented the time he had to devote to formal studies rather than to ideas that interested him. He much preferred reading on his own, particularly about religious and philosophical issues. Contrary to Freud's thought, Jung had his own ideas and unique view of the human personality when he began to express these notions. It became inevitable that they would part. They severed their relationship in 1913. Freud and Jung were very close friends. I think Freud considered Jung as one of his best apprentices, but in the end, Jung had different ideas and didn't support the entire Freudian. So, which is why he created analytical psychology. In that same year, Jung experienced a neurotic episode that lasted for about 3 years, from 1915 to 1917. At this part of his life, he was disconnected from his life. He had to talk to himself all over and over again, just to remember who he was, that he went to college, that he was a doctor. He was literally on the brink of losing everything. But in the end, he still saved his mind. Now we continue to the aspects of personality. Here we have the conscious or the ego, the attitudes, extroversion and introversion, and the psychological types.
Now let us continue with the conscious or the ego. The ego is the center of consciousness, the part of the psyche concerned with perceiving, thinking, feeling, and remembering. It is our awareness of ourselves and is responsible for carrying out all the normal everyday activities of waking life.
Now let us continue to the attitudes, extroversion and introversion. Much of our conscious perception of our environment and how we react to it is determined by the opposing mental attitudes of extroversion and introversion. Jung believed that psychic energy could be channeled externally toward the outside world or internally toward the self. Extroverts are open, sociable, and socially assertive, oriented toward other people and the external world. Introverts are withdrawn and often shy and tend to focus on themselves, on their own thoughts and feelings. According to Freud, all of us have the capacity for both attitudes, but only one becomes dominant in our personality. The dominant attitude that tends to direct our behavior and consciousness. The non-dominant attitude will still remain influential, however, becomes part of the personal unconscious where it can affect behavior. It's still influential, but it's like imagine having a person like guide you from behind, not physically shout commands at you. Like that. Okay. When Jung realized that there were numerous types of extroverts and introverts, he offered new classification based on what he called psychological functions. Different and competing methods of viewing both the exterior real world and our subjective inner world are described by these functions. Sensing, intuiting, thinking, and feeling are the four functions of the psyche, according to Jung. In psychological types, Jung distinguished between extroverts and introverts. Now let us proceed to the psychological types. First, we have the psychological types regarding extroverts. First, we have the extroverted thinking types, which follow the rules of society to the letter. These people have the tendency to suppress their emotions and sentiments, to be objective in all parts of life, and to be dogmatic in their beliefs and viewpoints. They could come across as inflexible and chilly. They become good scientists because they are interested in learning from the outside world and describing and understanding it using logical rules. Next, we have the extroverted feeling types. They have a strong emotional side and repress their thinking mode. They uphold the conventional values and moral rules they have been taught, and they're very sensitive to other people's judgments and expectations. They are emotionally sensitive, easily make friends, and are sociable and effervescent. This personality type, according to Jung, was more common in women than in men. Next, we have the extroverted sensing types. They place an emphasis on enjoyment and satisfaction, as well as the pursuit of new experiences. They have a deep connection to the actual world and are adaptive to a variety of individuals and situations. They are gregarious and have a strong capacity for enjoyment of life. They are not prone to reflection. And lastly, we have the extroverted intuiting types. They succeed in business and politics because they have a remarkable ability to see and capitalize on opportunities. They are drawn to new ideas, are naturally creative, and have the ability to motivate others to succeed. They are also prone to shift, jumping from one idea to endeavor, and making decisions based on instinct rather than analysis. Their choices, on the other hand, are likely to be correct. Now let us proceed into the introverted types of the psychological types. First, we have the introverted thinking types. They have a hard time interacting with others and articulating their thoughts. They are preoccupied with thoughts rather than sensations, and their practical judgment is poor. They like to engage with ideas and theories, and they are more concerned with knowing themselves than with other people. Others perceive them as obstinate, aloof, arrogant, and uncaring because of the demeanor that they have. Next, we have the introverted feeling types. They hinder reasonable thinking. They are capable of intense feeling, yet they are unable to articulate it. They are calm and humble and infantile, and they appear secretive and unreachable. They appear aloof, chilly, and self-assured, with little regard for others' feelings and ideas. Next, we have the introverted sensing types. They project a passive, placid, and distant demeanor from the rest of the world. Most humans' acts are viewed with charity and delight by them. They're aesthetically sensitive and express themselves through art or music, but they suppress their intuition. Lastly, we have the introverted intuiting types. They are so preoccupied with intuition that they have lost touch with reality. They are daydreamers and visionaries who are distant, uninterested with practical issues, and misunderstood by others. They are unusual and eccentric, and they have a hard time coping with daily life and making plans for the future. Next, we proceed to the unconscious, which is the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. First, we have the personal unconscious. In Jung's approach, the personal unconscious is analogous to Freud's concept of the preconscious. It is a storehouse of information that was once conscious but was forgotten or suppressed because it was insignificant or upsetting. Between the ego and the personal unconscious, there is a lot of back and forth communication. For example, your focus could be drawn away from this page and toward a recollection of something you did yesterday. The personal unconscious, which has been compared to a filing cabinet, stores a wide range of experiences. As we file more and more experiences in our personal unconscious, we begin to group them into what Jung called complexes. These complexes are emotions, memories, perception, wishes that are arranged around a common topic. Complexes can exist in two forms, conscious or unconscious. Those who are not under conscious control have the ability to intrude on and disrupt consciousness. The individual who has a complex is usually unaware of its influence, yet others can quickly notice its consequences. Some complexes are hazardous while others are beneficial, so they have two sides. Complexes, they sometimes benefit, sometimes they don't. Next, we have the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious. Now let us continue to the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is the lowest and least accessible level of the psyche. It is the most peculiar and contentious part of Jung's philosophy. Jung argued that just as each of us store all our personal experiences in our personal unconscious, humanity as a whole stores the experiences of all our human and pre-human ancestors in the collective unconscious. Each new generation inherits this legacy. Now let us proceed to the archetypes, which is probably Jung's most controversial topics. These are the ancient experiences contained in the collective unconscious that are manifested by recurring themes or patterns. He also used the term primordial images. There are a multitude of such images, just as there are an abundance of common human experiences. Archetypes have become engraved in our psyches and expressed in our dreams and fantasies as a result of being repeated in the lives of consecutive generations. The hero, the mother, the child, God, death, power, and the wise old man are some of the archetypes Jung proposed. A handful of these are more completely formed than others. They have a more consistent impact on the mind. These major archetypes include the persona, the anima, the animus, the shadow, and the self, among others. Now let us continue regarding the archetypes. First, we start with the persona. The persona archetype is a mask, a public face we put on to seem as someone else. We are not who we actually are. The persona is vital according to Jung, because we are social creatures obliged to play a variety of roles in order to succeed at school, in work, and in life, interacting with a wide range of people. Although the persona can be helpful, it can also be harmful if we come to believe that it reflects our true nature. So the persona is more like a facade that we put on in our general lives in different roles that we have. For example, in school, the mask we use is as a student. We can't act as free or as carefree as we have when we're just with our friends. It's like that. But we should not let it be our guiding principle, because it is only a mask that we use and it is not our entire being. Now let us proceed into the anima and animus. The archetypes anima and animus correspond to Jung's realization that humans are fundamentally bisexual. On a biochemical level, each sex secretes both the hormones of the other sex and its own sex. On a psychological level, centuries of cohabitation have resulted in each sex displaying characteristics, temperaments, and attitudes of the other. The feminine mind contains masculine aspects, which is the animus archetype, while the masculine psyche has feminine aspects, which is the anima archetype. Because they allow a person of one sex to grasp the nature of the other sex, their opposite sex qualities contribute in the species adaptation, and survival. The archetypes incline us to favor specific qualities of the opposite sex and steer our conduct in that direction. Both the anima and the animus, according to Jung, must be expressed. A man must show both his feminine, masculine characteristics, and a woman must show both her manly as well as her feminine features. If not, these crucial components will be lost and will remain latent and underdeveloped, resulting in a personality that is one-sided. Now let us continue to the Great Mother. The Great Mother is a archetype derivative of the anima and the animus. A wonderful mother archetype exists in everyone, man or woman. This pre-existing concept of mother has always been associated with both positive and negative connotations, as well as negative emotions. As a result, the Great Mother symbolizes two competing forces: fertility and emotion on one hand, and power and devastation on the other. She has the ability to produce and sustain life, which is the fertility and nutrition, but she also has the ability to devour and neglect her kids, which is destruction. Remember that Jung perceived his mother as having two personalities, her insane maternal side of the family, one that was caring and loving, and the other was strange, archaic, and harsh. Next is the wise old man. The wise old man, as an archetype of wisdom and meaning, represents humanity's prior knowledge of life's secrets. This archetypal meaning, on the other hand, is unconscious and cannot be immediately felt by a single person. The wise old man archetype is personified in dreams as father, grandfather, teacher, philosopher, guru, doctor, or priest. He appears in fairy tales as the king, the sage, or the magician who comes to the aid of troubled protagonists, and through superior wisdom, he helps the protagonist escape from myriad of adventures. The wise old man is also symbolized by life itself. The danger to society comes when people become swayed by the pseudo-knowledge of a powerful prophet and mistake nonsense for real wisdom. Recall that Jung saw preachings of his father, a pastor, as hollow pontifications, not backed by any strong religious conviction. Next we have is the shadow. The shadow is the most powerful archetype, is ominous and is mysterious. It contains all the most fundamental and base animal instincts, and hence having the deepest roots of all archetypes. Behaviors that society regards to be bad and immoral exist in the shadows, and if people are to live in peace, this dark part of human nature must be tamed. These primordial impulses must be resisted, controlled, and defended at all times. If we don't, if we don't, society will very certainly punish us. However, not only is the shadow the source of evil, it is also a source of vitality, spontaneity, creativity, and passion. As a result, if the shadow is completely suppressed, the psyche will become dull and lifeless. The ego's task is to tame our animal tendencies enough for us to be turned civilized. Is the hero. The hero archetype is represented in mythology and legends as a powerful person, sometimes part god, who fights against great odds to conquer or vanquish evil in the forms of dragons, monsters, serpents, or demons. In the end, however, the hero is often undone by some seemingly insignificant person or event. Heroic deeds can be performed only by someone who is vulnerable, such as Achilles or the comic book superhero Superman, whose only weakness was the chemical element kryptonite. An immortal person with no weakness cannot be a hero. The image of the hero touches an archetype within us, as demonstrated by our fascination with the heroes of movies, novels, plays, and television programs. When the hero conquers the villain, he or she frees us from feelings of impotence and misery, at the same time serving as our model for the ideal personality. Now let us proceed to the self. The self archetype symbolizes the self's unity, integration, and harmony of a complete personality. The pursuit of wholeness, according to Jung, is the ultimate objective of existence. This archetype entails bringing all aspects of one's personality together and balancing them. The competing forces of conscious and unconscious processes must be integrated in the self archetype so that the self, which is the center of the personality, changes from the ego to a position of equilibrium midway between the opposing forces of conscious and unconscious processes. As a result, unconscious material begins to exert a bigger influence on the personality. The full realization of oneself is yet to come. It's a goal to strive for all the time but rarely achieved. The self acts as a motivator, moving us forward rather than pushing us backwards. Goals and plans for the future, as well as an accurate evaluation of one's skills, are all part of self-actualization. Because development of the self is impossible without self-knowledge, it is the most exhausting process we will ever confront, requiring perseverance, perception, and wisdom. Okay, so that is all from my report. Thank you for listening, and please have a good day.
Good day everyone, I am Pamila Villanueva of BS Psychology 3A, and today we will be talking about Eduard Spranger and his work, which is The Sixth Attitude. Eduard Spranger was a German philosopher and psychologist. Spranger was born in Berlin and died in Tübingen. One of his most notable contributions to the field of psychology was his theory of attitude, outlined in his book called Lebensformen, or translated in English, which means Types of Men, in 1928. In this book, Spranger outlined his attempt to carry out a new method of differentiating human psychological characteristics. Introduction. Spranger proposed 6 basic attitudes to understand the most significant form of what we might call today personality types. Personality types mean psychological classification of different types of individual. The 6 attitudes primarily arose out of Spranger's personal observation, psychological expertise, and general knowledge of literature. Spranger was wary of developing theory of personality too heavily influenced by laboratory results, as doing so would likely create a model biases. He was interested in the psychology of mankind. A huge number of figures across history are incorporated in his view. It is dynamic interaction between the 6 attitudes that makes human personality so complex and interesting. A number of instruments have been developed by other psychological research. Like Gordon Allport developed the first Spranger-based instrument called Study of Values. The most current version is called the Personal Interest, Attitude, and Values Assessment. And now we will proceed to the 6 values, which are the theoretic attitude, economic attitude, aesthetic attitude, social attitude, political attitude, and religious attitude. The theoretic attitude. A person whose dominant interest is the discovery of truth. A scholarly type with the passion for objective knowledge, who holds the truth in the highest regard. Recognizes nothing as beautiful or ugly, useful or useless, holy or impious, but only as true or false. This type of individual likely sees himself or herself as an intellectual. They spend their lives on pursuit of solving problems, asking and answering questions. They are easily absorbed by puzzle, riddle, mysteries, and strategic games such as chess. Their love is the pleasure of discovery. Next is the economic attitude. A person who is interested in what is useful. A pragmatist who in all the relation of life prefers utility to all over values. This is not just someone who cares about money, but what in money can afford. They are best in maximizing utility. This is an individual who is passionate about return on investment and in the broadest sense, and will place a great deal of value on where, how, and with whom they spend their time. Just as those with theoretical attitude are often attracted to scientific area of study, people with an economic attitude naturally gravitate to business and entrepreneurship. Where a lover of arts looks at painting and asks, "Isn't it beautiful?" the economic person asks, "How much?" We will now proceed to aesthetic attitude. A person whose highest value is form and harmony. Aestheticism is summarized as the form expression of an impression, where impression deals with the input from the world as it is captured by our senses and fires the imagination, while expression deals with the manifestation of mental, emotional, and physical states, and form deals with the interplay and harmony between the two. An aesthetic person is the one who views the world in a unique way. A true aesthetic experience is defined as a state of pure contemplation, a letting oneself go in the manifold nature of actual or imagined objects. Next is the social attitude. A person whose highest value is love of people. A caring soul whose fundamental nature is driven by the impulse to give oneself to another. In the pure sense of social value is called love, that defines the interest in the value of possibilities of another. Social types will often be drawn to areas such as teaching, nursing, clergy, poverty, alleviation, and non-profit causes. Where money makes people greedy, love is given. The social's chief concern is human flourishing and the development of the potential in others, without any hidden agenda or expectation in return. Next is the political attitude. A person's interest is primarily in power. The political type in the broadest sense is concerned with the expression of power, someone who seeks to direct one's own life and the lives of others. The political type is having to adapt to the fact that the hierarchical structures and relations of power is fundamental to life. A political type may search for influence in every way and at any price, or they may seek only a certain level of status in a narrow field. An effective political type is likely to be seen by others as an overachiever or a strong leader. And lastly, the religious attitude. A person whose highest value is unity. This is not necessarily someone who is defined by membership with a religious organization. Rather, it is an attitude expressed in person whose mental structure is permanently directed to the creation of the highest. In other words, the highest and the richest revelation that some may call God or nature of universe in the sense of totality of oneness. He or she may believe that everything is fundamentally meaningless and finds a certain satisfaction in spiritual pessimism, in abandoning worldly pleasure for a life of meditation. And that is the end of my report. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something from my report.
Alam natin na isa sa mga importanteng desisyon ng isang individual ang patungkol sa pagpili ng career na tatahakin natin in the near future. Ito ang isa sa pinakamahirap na desisyon dahil sa dami ng choices na ating pagpipilian. Isang example na lamang ay ang pagpili ng strand natin nung tayo ay senior high school. Isa ito sa mga struggle ng mga estudyante. Pangalawa ay ang mga kolehiyo, ang mga taong tutungtong sa kolehiyo ang pagpili ng kanilang mga kurso. Minsan, may mga estudyante na naliligaw kasi hindi akma sa personalidad nila yung kurso na kanilang kinuha. Kaya ang kalaunan ng nangyayari ay hindi natatapos o kaya paulit-ulit silang nag-shift. So, paano nga ba natin ito masusolusyonan? At paano ang tamang pagpili ng career na nababagay sa ating personalidad? So, in today's video, we are going to talk about Holland's theory of career choice. So, bago natin pag-usapan si paring Holland, atin mo nang pag-usapan ng brief si paring Adler. Tulad ganun sabi ni paring Adler sa book ng Fees and Fees ng 9th edition that he believed that career choices reflects a person's personality. Kung naaalala natin ng mga bata pa tayo na once tayong tinanong kung anong gusto natin paglaki. Or minsan may mga pinakwento yung mga magulang natin kung ano yung mga kinahihiligan nating laruin noon. Halimbawa, nung bata ako, sabi nila tito ko, mahilig daw ako maglaro ng stuffed toy. Tapos madalas ko daw yung ginagamit na tinuturuan ko daw sila. Teacher-teacheran daw ako noon. Mahilig din daw ako magsulat-sulat sa pader. Tapos bata pa lang ako, ang hilig ko na daw sa ballpen, ang hilig ko daw magsulat. Kahit na yung mga sulat ko hindi nakaiintindihan. So, ang tawag sa mga memories na yon, tinawag ito ni Adler na early recollection. According sa book ng Fees and Fees, na-inspired daw yung mga researchers dun sa belief ni Adler. So, in order to test the hypothesis, si John Kessler at si Villanueva na 2005 ay nag-gather sila ng earliest memories ng 130 participants. And to classify the recollection, they used the Holland 1973 vocational interest types. Ito yung mas kilala na nga yung Holland career choice. At mayroon itong 6 na types which is abbreviate with the word RISEC, meaning R for realistic, people who are doers. I stand for investigative, they are called the thinkers. A stand for artistic, they're called as the creators. S stand for social, also called the helpers. And enterprising, as the persuaders. And last but not the least is the conventional, also called as the organizers. So let's start with realistic, or sila yung mga tinatawag na doers. They likes to work with animals, tools, or machines. They avoid social activities like teaching, healing, and informing others. They have good skill in working with tools, mechanical or electrical drawings, machines, plants, and animals. They see themselves as practical, mechanical, and realistic. Masasabi natin ang mga individual na mayroong realistic personality ay mga independent. They are practical-minded and they also have a strong personality. Nag-e-enjoy din sila sa manual activities kaysa sa social interaction. Mas gusto nila ng kaharap ang mga machines. So, ito yung mga taong interesado sa manual working like fixing, assembling, or building things. Mahilig din sila sa paggamit ng equipment o di kaya nag-ooperate sila ng mga tools and machines. Ito yung mga bagay na career na babagi sa mga personality ng mga realistic person, which are pilot, farmer, horticulturist, builder, engineering, at marami pang iba that is related to manuals and machines. Sunod naman natin ay ang mga thinkers or mga investigative. Ito naman yung mga mahihiling mag-aral, mag-solve ng math or science problem. Sila kadalasan yung mga individual na binayaan ng talents when it comes in understanding science and math problems. They see themselves as precise, scientific, and intellectual. Kadalasan sila yung mga student na nilalaban sa mga competition ng senior or junior or elementary days sa science fair, sa research, and math quizzes. Sila yung mga tinatawag na math and science wizard. The works that they excel are strategic, planners, statisticians, at marami pang iba that involves maths and science. Generally, they avoid leading, selling, and persuading people. So yun nga, they like to discover, research ideas. They also like to observe, investigate, from the word itself, investigative. They also like to experiment and ask and solve questions. So the skills that they have are, they are think analytically and logically. They're also computing, good in communicating by writing and speaking, designing, formulating, calculating, diagnosing, experimenting, and investigating. So ang occupational na nababago naman sa mga taong from mga types na mayroong investigative qualities are research, medical and health occupations, chemists, marine scientists, at marami pang iba that are related to science and research. So next naman natin ay yung mga artistic or also called the creatives or the creators. Ito the word artistic, mga artists, ito yung mga artists natin. Ito yung mga individual na mahilig sa arts, drama, craft, dance, music, or creative writing. So, itong mga artistic personality or qualities, they generally dislike highly ordered or repetitive activities. Siyempre, sila naman yung mga individual na biniyayaan ng creativity ng mga talents. So, itong mga individual na may artistic qualities, they see themselves as expressive. Bakit sila expressive? Kasi, example natin sa music, diba? Nagko-compose yung mga mga composer ng mga kanta which is related to the feelings na mafe-feel nila. And
Diba mas maganda yun kasi relate ang lahat. Then another example is the abstract, mga painting, diba? Meron pa yung mga tula, diba? Yung mga yan. Mga essay, sabihin mga essay na rin. Mga self-explanatory yan. So, artistic, mga artist na yan is mga self-expressive. Madalas kinukuha nilang motivation is from their own self, sa mga nararamdaman nila. Another is they see themselves as the original. Siyempre, sila ang composer, so sila ang composer, so original nilang kinompose ng mga ito. Another one is independent. Bakit sila naging independent? Kasi they can stand alone, actually. Kasi, katulad ng mga kakilala ko na nakikita ko, mga friend ko sa Facebook, they can have their own business kasi from commissions. Yung mga artist na nag-drawing, diba? Pinagkakakitaan na nila yun. So, they can work independent from their own talents. Pinagkakakitaan nila yung own talents nila. So, they are independent. So, yung mga occupational na nababagay sa personalidad ng mga artistic qualities ay songwriter, illustrator, photographer, composer, singer, instrument player, dancer, actor, reporter, writer, at marami pang iba that is related sa arts at saka sa creations. Next is social. From the word itself, ito yung mga individual na may hilig sa interaction sa mga tao. So, this individual like to works with other people, like teaching, they train, they inform, they help, they treat, they serve and greet people. People have these qualities are, masasabi natin, well concerned sa other people and they are willing to help too. They are good at teaching, counseling, nursing, and giving information. They usually avoid sa tools, sa machines, at saka sa animals. Siyempre, they value helping other people and solving problems. Dahil dito, they see themselves as helpful, friendly, and trustworthy. Sa definition pa lang naman, alam na natin kung ano pwede maging occupation nila. So, maglalapag lang ako ng mga ilan. Like teacher, nursing, nurse, counselor, police officer, social worker, salesperson, customer service officer, waiter, secretary, at lahat ng mga trabaho that are related to communication and interaction sa mga tao. So, next one is enterprising. This individual like meeting people. They also like leading. They also like influencing others. They also like encouraging others and also engaging in businesses. So, they avoid careful observation. They also hate scientific and analytic thinking. So, ang enterprising is kabaligtaran ng investigative. So, they values politics. Siyempre, they also values leadership and businesses. So, they also see themselves as energetic, ambitious, and sociable. Last but not the least, conventional. They like working indoors that involves organizing, being accurate, like following procedures, working with data or numbers. They also like plannings and events. They usually avoid ambiguous and unstructured activities. They see themselves as orderly and good at following set of plans. The occupational that fits for conventional types are secretary, receptionist, office worker, librarian, bank clerk, computer operator, and many more. So, yun yung 6 career types ni John Holland. So, nakapag-come up ka na ba kung anong career that fits to your personality? So, hanggang dito na lang ang video na ito. So, hopefully, makakatulong at may napulot kayo kahit papano. So, good luck sa pagpili ng career or jobs na tatahakin in the near future. And thank you for watching.